I recently spoke on my channel about the direction I wanted to take it, and how I wanted to incorporate some of my other games in my roster besides Genshin into my line of topics and essays. But I've never been sure how to go about it. What should my first topics outside of Genshin be? What sort of segue, so to speak, could I muster up to begin bridging that gap? Well, we can thank the folks over at Riot Games for giving me the easiest segue ever, because what they've just pulled in League of Legends is an insanely egregious cash grab that I dare say makes Hoyoverse look straight up altruistic by comparison. And I'm literally going to use Genshin to illustrate my points here, though it'll come a little bit later, so stick with me here, but yeah. I've played League of Legends longer than almost any other single game. I've played it for years. Well, heck, I've played Genshin for years for that matter, 4 years in fact, but that just goes to show you how much longer my time with League of Legends has been. So long that I will readily say I've been playing League for years, with an internalized understanding that it means far longer than even some other titles that have nearly a half-decade under their own belts. Yes, my time with League of Legends goes back a whopping 13 years to 2011. Someone who was 5 years old when I started League is literally an adult today. Someone who was just being born is now a teenager. Or think about it this way. The Nintendo Switch and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild released in 2017, which gave Genshin Impact some stylistic inspirations, and then itself had to start development, finally releasing in 2020. Now we're into the 4th year after Genshin's release. That Nintendo Switch and Breath of the Wild that released in 2017, that still happened 6 years after I started League of Legends in 2011. So, an entire cycle of original games releasing, giving inspiration to derivative games, the derivative games being developed and releasing, and now being several years into their own release. My League of Legends tenure is the equivalent of starting with the release of Breath of the Wild, getting all the way up to Fontaine in Genshin right now, starting the entire cycle over again with Breath of the Wild, and then getting back up to around Sumeru in Genshin. So yeah, when I say I've played League for years, even though I've also played Genshin for years, there is a huge difference in how I mean that. But why am I saying this? Why does it matter? Well, League of Legends is a game that has grown ridiculously huge throughout the years. Riot Games, the developers, truly had something special on their hands with their creation of the game. But like any company, they had to make money. And being as League of Legends is a free-to-play game, naturally that meant they had to make their money in other ways. Kudos to them, they didn't go too far down the pay-to-win route, but they did capitalize on players' desires to be unique and cool with skins for their champions. And for the uninitiated, champions are the characters in League. Ah yes, League of Legends skins, the bread for Riot Games and the butter for the players. Don't have to purchase any if you don't want to, you can play completely free, and some do exactly that. But I have to say, it's increasingly rare to find someone who doesn't have at least a few skins, at minimum for their favorite champions. In fact, there's kind of an old League community meme, the Team 4 skin meme, where 4 out of the 5 players on the team have skins, and the 5th player doesn't. Hence, 4 skin. Get it? Yeah, cringe maybe, but that just goes to show you how many players buy skins. They're so ubiquitous that not having a skin stands out. I'd go so far as to say that when you notice someone isn't playing with a skin, it even sets off strategic warning lights and red flags. You immediately begin to question why. Either this player with no skin is 1. New to the game in general, 2. Not new to the game in general, but new to the champion in general, or 3. They're a higher ranked player on a lower ranked account, or as we like to call it in League, a smurf. Yeah, using skins is so expected that it can literally lead you to questioning the entire skill level of players in the game in the absence of one. In fact, I'd argue that they're so common now that having them isn't even special. In the olden days of League, at least in the super clique I used to play with, getting a skin for a champion was kind of a statement. You were serious about the champ. You were either maining the champ or gonna learn it. It was kind of a statement of sorts. But now, it's not really a statement at all. When you do get a skin, it's more so for your own enjoyment than any kind of statement or flex. I mean, there's the Victoria skin line for reaching particular rank levels in ranked seasons. There's the 3 honor skin line for reaching particular community honor thresholds throughout the season. And then there's higher end coveted battle pass skins and mythics that require larger bits of time investment, RNG, or long-term in-game currency hoarding. But overall, when you have a skin, no one cares. Like, no one. Everyone's seen it a million times already. You're not special for it. Again, you're more likely to turn heads for not having one. Though, if they're that common, certainly that means they're affordable, right? Well, yeah, generally yes. For one, there's a crafting system where combining several different skin shards can net you a random skin in the game. Though with nearly 170 champions in the game at the time of this essay, and several if not over a dozen skins on some champions, the chances of you getting the actual skin you want is literally 1 in hundreds. About 1700 in fact. That's about the number of skins in the game currently. So don't by any means think the RNG skin crafting system is going to throw you what you want. You're better off just buying the skin and taking the RNG skins from the crafting system as consolation prizes. Which, yeah, it's fine, because almost all champions do have some lower cost budget skins. Might not be the best skin with the best effects, but you can generally find some kind of new look for your champion at a low price. As a business model, it's worked. I mean, Riot makes a crap ton of money on skins. It's insane. And since it is cosmetic and doesn't really alter player power levels, which is important in a game like League, which is competitive, people are generally fine with it. Or at least, they were. Yeah, see, every company, it seems, always has to do this thing where they take a good thing to the extreme. League has skins at varying price ranges. They can go anywhere from around $5-ish to $10-ish, $15, $20-ish. Of course, the more expensive they are is the more detailed they are, with more effects, expressiveness, animations, and general love. But that's expected. You pay more, you get more, yeah. Until they offer a skin for $500. Yep, you heard that right. A skin for $500. Okay, so about $450, but at that point, bro, that's $500, like. The logical conclusion, right? $5 skin price point, $10 skin price point, $15, $20 skin price point, and then, you know, we just go right up to $500 because that's logical. That's normal. Sure, there's no insane jump there at all. That's completely sane and normal and expected, right? Yeah. So, the champion Ahri is one of the most well-known champions in League of Legends. The sultry, nine-tailed fox lady that's so popular that even many non-League players know who she is by both name and look. She's one of the game's main icons, appearing on advertising, merchandise, and just is generally one of the mascots of the game, only being rivaled by a select few others. I myself am a huge Ahri fan. In fact, she's my second most played champion in League of Legends, second only to Lux, who also happens to be one of the token mascot champions of the game. I swear I'm not a normie in this game, by the way. I liked these champions for years before it was cool. But yeah, Ahri, she's super popular. No surprise then that she has 17 skins. Which might lead you to be like, okay, but the game is super old and has so many champions, is that really abnormal? True, yeah, it's an old game, so you'd think that's a normal conclusion to draw about her number of skins, until you realize there's less popular champs in the game that only have like 3 or 4 skins. There is absolutely no coincidence that champions like Ahri and Lux have almost 20 skins. It's directly related to their popularity and the number of players who main them. It takes time and effort to make skins, so by Riot's standpoint, it makes the most sense to make skins for champs who will actually sell the skins, right? I mean, yeah, that does make sense, but we're seeing the logical extreme of that strategy unfold before our eyes. Because a company can't be satisfied with just some money, they want everything. Let these game companies have their way, and you could just go to your workplace's payroll department and have them direct deposit your paycheck right into the game company's account. That's what these game companies want. And with this $500 price point, that's literally what Riot is asking for from the players. That's pretty much an entire paycheck for some people. No pun intended, but asking that's just out of pocket, bro. Like, the cost of a skin should replace the cost of something else luxury. A drink at Starbucks, maybe. A small DLC pack for another game. A movie ticket. Something along those lines. The cost of a skin should never replace the cost of your light bill or half your rent or leave you hungry for the rest of the month. Is Riot serious? That's crazy. It's out of the question. Okay, granted, there's 3 tiers to Ahri's new skin. Risen, Immortalized, and Signature, dubbed collectively as the Legend Collection. There are some other things bundled with the skins too, like battle passes, signature finishing VFX, and even the champion Ahri herself if you don't own her. If you buy one of the higher tiers, you also get the skins of the tiers below it as well, as far as I understand. The highest tier though sports a signature from League's esports greatest of all time player Faker. Which makes sense, since this celebration is supposed to be a part of a new annual thing called the Hall of Legends, where each year, one of League's greatest of all time players will be honored with signature skins to immortalize their legacy. That's cool and all, and if anyone deserves the Hall of Legends induction for this first year, it's definitely Faker. But dude, how many players can you expect to celebrate Faker's accomplishments when you're asking them to risk having their car repoed due to non-payment? It goes from being something that should be cool to just being downright hilarious, and I think that's the funny part here. The lowest tier, Risen Ahri, is itself 5430 RP, which is around $40 worth of RP. The thing is, you can't buy 5430 RP. You can get 4500 RP for $35, or you can get 6500 RP for $50. So unless you have some remaining RP in your account from previous transactions, there's a good chance you'll have to bust out $50 for the 6500 RP, for the simple fact that the next lowest amount, 4500 RP for $35, doesn't reach the 5430 RP that the skin costs. That's the ugly part of these kinds of game economies. Instead of letting you buy things outright, you have to buy their currencies, forcing you to spend more than you need. It's really scummy, but that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, Risen Ahri itself has a value of about $40 worth of RP, and could cost you $50 depending on your starting balance of RP. That in itself is insane. I said I was going to mention Genshin at some point, right? After all, that's the title. Well, it's at this point that I began to draw comparisons. This is where, to me, it becomes apparent just how insane this skin's price point is. When Genshin released, it bridged a gap between MOBA gacha audiences and console PC gamers. I myself was never a mobile gamer, always a PC and console gamer, but Genshin, it did something no other game of its kind had yet to do. I can confidently say that it was my first personal exposure to pure gacha mechanics. Sure, I'd encountered RNG store systems and loot boxes, but I'd yet to play a game where that was the driving economy to such a degree. To me, loot boxes were, up until that time, just cosmetic in nature at best, and maybe a weapon or something at worst. But never to do anything with the actual characters themselves that you own. That's a whole different level of game-altering experience. The gacha, coupled with daily stamina and energy limits, was something completely different, and it took some real getting used to. Especially when concerning the prices. I always thought I knew what expensive gaming was. I thought League was expensive gaming, funny enough. Cosmetic in nature for the most part, but considering the large number of skins I owned in League, the amount of money I'd had given Riot over the years had to be some crazy 4-digit number that I would be too ashamed to actually go and figure up. But this game, Genshin, I just couldn't believe the price point. The fact that you could literally spend $100 to roll on a character you like and potentially still not get the character. Absolute insanity. Madness. Even with the pity system that guarantees you your selected character after so many rolls, I thought it was just insane. Too much. This was compounded with the fact that every character has 6 unlockable passives. And how do you unlock these passives? Getting copies of the same one character. That's right, spend $100 to maybe get a character, then spend another $100 or $200 just to get a copy of them, just to like reduce a cooldown on an ability or do extra defense shred on the enemies or something. To me, this economy was absolutely disgusting. The amount that Hoyoverse was asking players to pay just to use some cute waifu or hot husbando out in an open world was absolutely mind-numbing. But the thing is, people were doing it. $100, $200, $300, $400, $500. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had no idea gacha could get that deep. Way too rich for me. Way too rich. Until it wasn't. The fact that today I have 3 5-star characters, all with 6 constellations maxed, is just, oh well, kind of embarrassing. Especially in a game like Genshin where that's not necessary in the first place. At least the very last character I did it on was Yoimiya in August of 2022, so about 2 whole years ago. I'd already had 3 of her constellations from her first run in the game, then they ran her again and I got her remaining 3 constellations. But even so, yikes, I'm just justifying at this point. Still, I haven't completely maxed a character in ages, and after that Yoimiya grab in 2022, I didn't spend whatsoever for like 8 or 9 months, not even to get 1 copy of a new character, let alone their following 6 constellation passives. I just played on the free points the game gives you, because I realized that Genshin's economy was more egregious than it warranted. The game isn't that hard. Plus, it's single player. Who am I getting character copies for? It kinda made no sense. And yet, I didn't regret my 3 6 constellation characters because they did make the game feel more comfortable. I would never do it again, sure, but I didn't regret what I had done. Because I received the power I paid for. Whether the price itself was justified, that was another question, but it did what it was supposed to do. Make my character super potent. And it's from that lens that I revisit League's new egregious skin pricing. Because you see, while it's totally possible to spend $500 to max a character's 6 constellations in Genshin, at the very least it's game-altering power. And since it's single player, I guess that's okay since it's not altering some multiplayer competitive landscape. But then I look at League and I see this $500 skin, which sure comes with a battle pass and some other stuff, but I suddenly feel like I've done a 180 on my perspective on what an expensive game purchase is. After my 3 constellation 6 characters in Genshin, I stopped and asked myself for what purpose. I began to analyze what I could get in place of that money. When answering that, it became clear. PS5 and some games, start up on a new gaming PC rig, rent maybe. Yeah, it was not good spending. Great for those that could do it regularly, but for me, nah. And again, no regrets. I mean, had I not bought the characters, I would have just bought something else, like a laptop or Xbox or speaker system. So it's not like if I didn't max those characters, I would have saved that. No. But again, I could have just had something more tangible in their place. The question simply was, what else could I get instead of maxing these characters? And the answers were enough to make me go cold turkey on spending in Genshin for months and months. To this day, I only put in maybe 100 every 2 or 3 months. That's how profound the impact of answering that question for myself was. But then I look at the highest tier of this League skin. And when I ask the same question, what could I get in its place? What could I better spend it on? One of the answers is haunting, hilarious, and shocking. The answer? I could get a few base Genshin characters with that, or get several constellations deep in a single character I like. That is a real answer to the question, what's something else I could do with the money I'd spend on that League skin? And that is an entirely new tier of egregious pricing in games. Since Genshin's release, when I was exposed to the horrid depths of money one could spend in a game like that, I couldn't imagine ever seeing anything comparably bad in another game, or downright worse. And yet here we are today. League, the game that I'd always viewed as having a somewhat ethical economy, is now selling cosmetics for the price of what a few base Genshin characters could cost. It's absolutely crazy how fast perspective can change. When I got into Genshin, having played League for years, the economy seemed almost parody levels of audacious. Like, there's no way this company is asking players for this much money for just the chance to get the character they want. For 500 though, you can at the very least get a base copy of the character you want in Genshin. 500 is more than past the point of guarantee, thanks to Genshin's guarantee system, or pity system as it's called, where after so many rolls you'll get the character anyway. In League though, that 500 will get you this skin. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but this skin, it's making Genshin's economy look like the Sane one. There's a whole world of difference between a skin for a character you like, League, and a whole new character in general, Genshin. The fact that I'm sitting here comparing what half a grand can get you in 2 games is crazy enough, but the fact that Genshin is winning that contest in this instance, I think that's quite telling. There's no planet in the Milky Way galaxy that's worth it. I'm saying this as one of the biggest Ahri fans in the League servers. Hundreds of games played, high mastery level, all other skins owned. Literally, I own all other skins she has. And all that said, there is just no way I'll be getting this. I won't. They'll be lucky if I get the lowest tier, the Risen Ahri, let alone take out a loan just to get the highest tier. And no, I mean that. I might not get the lowest tier, even for $40. I mean, like I said, I have all her skins. I have so many nice styles to choose from. I can play 17 matches and have a different look for each one. Past the point, do I really need this anyway? Again, I'm not even talking about the signature version, I just mean the Risen version at this point. It doesn't do anything in the end. It's a skin to look nice. What? Comparatively, at least if I get a character in Genshin, I can experience the game through a new lens. I remember way back at the end of the first year of Genshin when Jean and Barbara had skin releases in the game. Cute, summery outfits, but they didn't add anything to the game, just new looks for the Mondstadt sister duo. For a limited time, you could earn Barbara's for free, for which after a period it moved to cost 1,618 Genesis crystals, or somewhere around $25 to $30. Jeans could not be gotten for free though. It was mildly discounted for a time period, but it also shot up to about $25 to $30 after a period. I remember at that time, even in Genshin's own community, players were saying the cost of the Barbara and Jean skins were meme levels of expensive to be so basic and offer nothing. What made it worse is that you could actually buy Jean skin and not even own Jean yet. Remembering that Genshin is a gacha game where the character acquisition can be random, some players found it justifiable to get Jean's skin even though they didn't have her yet, with the expectation that one day, be it the next week, month, year, they would own Jean. And you allow this was real. You could literally buy her skin when it was on launch sale and not own her yet. I didn't think a cosmetic economy could get more audacious. To allow someone to buy something they might not even be able to immediately use is just... my head explodes thinking about it. But it still almost seems more sane than League's new skin case, just on pure price point. The only thing I can think of that kind of gives League the nod in this case is the fact that at least you're playing with others and they can see your skin, unlike Genshin, which is 90% a single-player game. Like, who are you really impressing in Genshin, you know? Though, with League, I don't know now. You know, earlier when I was talking about how at one point way back in the early days of League, having a skin for a champion you like was a statement and cool? But then over time, how it kind of shifted into being so expected to have skins that not having a skin is what stands out now. I feel like this skin price is so bad, it might have the complete opposite effect. Sure, now nobody pays attention to whatever skin you're using unless you don't use one at all. If you use signature Ahri though, everyone will absolutely notice. There's no way people aren't going to notice. The thing is though, years and years ago, when say Popstar Ahri came out, using it would turn the heads of friends or allies, even enemies. The skins were subtle statements that might get a compliment or something from others. Hey, cool skin, or hey, do the dance animation, or something along those lines. The difference is though, I feel like if you show up with this new $500 skin, you're not going to get that kind of positive feedback from players. You're just going to get clowned on. What, you bought that, LOL? Dude, ain't no way, and it's especially worse if you have a bad game in that skin. I can't even begin to imagine the humiliation. Even as it is now, if you're using one of the game's higher end skins in the $20-$30 price range and have a particularly Looney Tunes performance in the game, allies and enemies alike may roast you and say, refund your skin. It's a pretty common roast to suggest that you are so bad at the champion that spending any kind of money on them is just flushing money down the drain. So hence, refund your skin. I cannot imagine the absolute clownery someone may get if they spend $500 on an Ahri skin and get washed by the enemy in game. I'm getting secondhand embarrassment just thinking about it. I don't know. If you're playing with randoms, you may just have to completely mute the game chat, ally and enemy. But I mean, really, even if you do well, you might get clowned on and told to go touch grass. There's no winning. Either you do well and people will call you cringe and obsessive, or you do poorly and people will call you cringe and obsessive. And I think that's what it comes down to in the end. It's just kind of cringe and obsessive. As an Ahri fan, I want to celebrate the champion and celebrate Faker's accomplishments as the League of Legends GOAT. But it just feels so overdone to ask this much from the players. And the fact I have characters in Genshin Impact with max constellations, and yet I don't even feel that as cringe and obsessive, that means something. Because at least I get to play those characters, but here it's just a new look, or at least that's how I feel about it. It's just a skin. It's just a new look. There's a difference between Genshin's gacha economy and a cosmetic one like League's. And on an ethical level, I have to say Genshin's is just the worse, more predatory, yuckier one. I respect Riot for keeping their game as far from pay to win as they can. They've done well with their cosmetic economy. But there is still reasonable value applied to anything. Granted, it is a bundle and does come with features, a battle pass, and even some SKT skins, but no. We won't go down that route because as soon as we do, we start justifying why it's not so bad, and it is bad. Very bad. I'm just a bit worried about what this means for games, that's all. When Genshin came along, I was worried about what that meant for games, and now we're here where this is trying to be set as a new standard. I wish I could say it's ethical, but the price point itself makes it non-ethical. Especially because, guess what? And here's the kicker. Now Riot is playing with FOMO, just as Hoyo would. On July 8th, these skins go away, even the lowest tier. And they've said that they don't intend to rerun them again. So Ahri players will feel the pressure. It's just so scummy and so bad. It's no different than a Genshin character banner staying up for 21 days and then leaving. But you know what? Again, this might be worse because hey, at least Genshin characters can 1. Rerun at a later date, and 2. You can technically save free primogems for them over time and obtain them for free. albeit at the expense of paying players who keep their servers alive, but hey. But here in League, they are offering a skin, not even a character, a skin, for a limited time for one of the game's most popular characters, and are not planning to run it ever again, or offer crafting or loot methods of obtaining it. That's arguably worse than Genshin FOMO, where at most your words you might not see a character again for half a year to a year or something, but can still feel confident you'll eventually see them again. And when I'm saying something is arguably worse than Genshin FOMO, we really gotta stop and take a look at things. If there's one thing to say about all these companies though, be it Riot, Hoyoverse, EA, Ubisoft, you name it, one thing they should understand is this: money is finite. Players have finite money. There's only so much we can spend on their games. And I'm a firm believer that lowering the entry cost so more people will be willing to spend might be more profitable in some instances than trying to harpoon the whales. Maybe not in all cases, but here, considering Ahri's popularity in League, I can only imagine that with a much lower price point, more people might buy in at a high enough ratio to match or even surpass the few whales that will go for their $500 bundle. Don't know that for sure, but just a thought. But companies want to be greedy. They want everything. They want 100% of your time. Oh, they want 100% of your money. They want 100% of your devotion. But again, we only have so much of that. We can't literally go without lights and food. That's just nuts. Especially for something that's barely going to alter the game experience in honor of Faker, who, guess what, doesn't even freaking use skins himself. Oh man, the audacity of these game companies, dude. Yeah, anyway, I'm off to play some Genshin now. I got some stuff to do in that game. And yes, I'll be using my Constellation 2 Farina, and Constellation 2 Navia, and Constellation 2 Chiori. And who knows, here soon when she releases, maybe even Constellation 2 Chlorinde. Or maybe not, again who knows, but I do know one thing. I'll get Constellation 2 Chlorinde before I spend that amount of money on a skin in League. And just the fact that's a statement, the fact that's a consideration, the fact that's even a sentence, a thought, we'll let that speak for itself. Thanks for listening.